Good afternoon, Bloom Energy colleagues. We are delighted that you are joining us for our Empowered Communities Employee Town Hall with Bloom Energy colleagues throughout California, as well as in the state of Delaware, for an important and timely conversation with two vital leaders that I greatly admire. As a reminder for new Bloom Energy colleagues, my name's Carl Guardino. I'm humbled to serve as our Global Executive Vice President for Government Affairs and Policy. And today for our Empowered Communities Employee Town Hall, we have two very special guests. Sonja Wilkerson, our Chief People Officer and Executive Vice President here at Bloom Energy, and Congressmember Karen Bass from Los Angeles, who has served as a member of Congress now for 6 very successful terms. We are honored to have both of these special guests with us, and today would not have been possible without our communications team here at Bloom Energy and my government affairs and community colleague, Minal Shafi. Minal, I'd ask if you could please turn on your camera and introduce our special guest, Congressmember Karen Bass.
Thank you, Carl. It is my pleasure to introduce Congressmember Bass. Congressmember Bass is currently serving her 6th term representing the 37th Congressional District, which includes many neighborhoods west and southwest of downtown Los Angeles. She currently serves on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, where she is the chair of the subcommittee on Africa, global health, and global human rights. She also serves on the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Terrorism. Congressmember Bass served as the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus in 2019 and 2020. During her tenure, the Congressional Black Caucus worked with the Congressional Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander, and Native American caucuses to demand a targeted response to the COVID-19 pandemic and initiate a national needs assessment for communities of color. Prior to her election to Congress, she served in the California State Assembly, where in 2008, she made history, becoming the first ever African-American woman in US history to serve as Speaker of any state legislature. She has also previously worked as a physician assistant and a clinical instructor at the USC Keck School of Medicine Physician Assistant Program. And without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Congresswoman Bass.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that welcome and introduction. I appreciate it. And to everybody at Bloom Energy, thank you for what you do for our planet. It is my honor to be here with you today and to say that here we are, Carl, my good friend for many years. Sonja, I'm just meeting you. But what a day to have this, historic day. President Biden nominated the first African-American woman to be on the US Supreme Court. So this is a day of history, a day of celebration, and I am very, very excited because we need diversity everywhere. But to just think that in a couple of years, we'll be celebrating our 250th anniversary as a country, and the idea that there's never been a Black woman on the Supreme Court, and in almost 250 years, there's only been 2 African-American women in the US Senate. So we have a ways to go in our country, but today is a day that we celebrate that diversity. I'm confident that she will be confirmed. Might be a little rough in the beginning, but what we do know about her is that she's already been confirmed on a bipartisan basis 2 or 3 times before. So I think that sets the stage for a pretty comfortable and rapid process, and I'm very excited today. So glad to be here with you on this special day.
Congresswoman Bass, we are honored not only to have you with us, but by your service to your community, our state, and our country with distinction now in your different roles for 2 decades. We are going to have a lively conversation broken into 2 parts. The first part, the first segment, is that I get to ask 5 or 6 questions to 2 incredibly articulate, bright, wise leaders, one public, one private sector. And then we get to turn it over to our colleagues here at Bloom Energy to place questions right into our chat box. You can start doing that now. so that we answer as many of your questions before we get to the top of the hour as well. So we want to encourage you to do that. But while we are going to have an inspiring, educational, and engaging conversation, we also can't forget the world events that are going on our globe today.
That's right.
And here at Bloom Energy, our hearts go out, our prayers go out to the people of the Ukraine and to the people of Russia. We need this reminder that a peaceful planet is best for all of us. And we just ask for wisdom in these difficult times so that people around our globe can be at peace, can raise their families, can live their lives. And I just want to start in that way as we engage in this conversation, that we at Bloom Energy, as a global, clean, resilient energy company, never, ever forget how fortunate we are as we look out for those around our planet. With that, again, I want to thank everyone for joining us for our Empowered Communities Employee Town Hall here at Bloom Energy. We're going to start segment 1 with our questions to Congressmember Karen Bass and to our Chief People Officer, Sonja Wilkerson. But to make sure neither of them feel that I'm picking on them, I will rotate who answers each question first. And I get to pick on my dear friend, Congressmember Karen Bass, to respond first. So let's not forget, we're also recognizing in February, Black History Month. And we reflect on the strides that the Congressmember referred to that we're making as a country, but the significant strides that we still need to make when it comes to racial equity, and acknowledge again that we have a long way to go. Congresswoman Bass, during your tenure as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, you helped pass key legislation to move our country closer to achieving this goal. What role can organizations and employers play in advancing equity, and how can we collectively create an environment where our Black colleagues, our colleagues belonging to other underrepresented groups, can feel valued and uplifted? And after we hear from Congressmember Bass, we're going to turn it over to our Chief People Officer, Sonja Wilkerson.
Well, thank you, Carl, for the question. And I think that there's a couple of things. You know, I always say that the culture of our country, and I mean all of us, is we're not a country that is that involved politically, and we pat ourselves on the back if we vote. But I think we need to begin to change that and understand that involvement with government, involvement with civic organizations really should be a regular part of life. It's not enough just to vote, but staying involved, being aware of what's going on in your community and communicating with your elected officials. I think a lot of people don't realize that when they send that email or when they make that phone call, we really do pay attention. I mean, in the halls of Congress, we are comparing notes. I mean, did you get a lot of phone calls on this? Did you get a lot of emails on that? So it really does make a difference. And then I think in terms of our country coming to grips with some of our challenges, we have to be able to have discussions that are guilt-free, that are blame-free, that we look at issues, especially of race, because I think race is one of probably the most difficult things for people to talk about. But we have to reach a point where we can have these discussions and not feel as though, well, I might say something wrong, or, you know, what if I asked a question and it's stupid? We have to give ourselves the space to learn about each other and to make mistakes, but to understand that for us ever to get past our challenges, we have to be able to talk about them, resolve it, dialogue, and sometimes we have differences, but you can have differences without it being hostile, without it being negative. You can just agree to disagree.
A gracious response. Thank you, Congressmember Bass. Sonja Wilkerson?
Yes, thank you, Carl. And by the way, I'd like to thank you for your setup of our session and acknowledging a couple of things. One, acknowledging what's happening in the broader world, and also acknowledging the Supreme Court nominee. We have many reasons to celebrate, and we have heavy issues on our mind daily that are impacting, unfortunately, the world. So thank you. That represents Bloom's culture as well. So now to address the question, corporate America plays a huge role in driving equality at all levels and across all races and all genders. I mean, that's part of what we should be doing in our roles. In the private sector. And it doesn't always happen. That's the reality where we are. Studies show that, companies that have diverse representation have a more healthy bottom line. So there is a business proposition to ensure an equality as well as promoting a diverse population within your community. Now I'll bring it to Bloom. Our culture at Bloom is founded on the concept of inclusion. And we believe that inclusion leads to diversity. We know our numbers. We work to ensure that equity happens across the entire community so that there is a basis and a foundation for fairness across the board. And frankly, because of that, we believe that we can attract some of the most diverse top talent in the world, frankly, to drive our cause forward. And I'm very proud to say that our CEO, Kara Sridhar, and our executive leadership team come from the same belief system that creating a community that is both inclusive and diverse impacts us positively. So there's a responsibility that we carry as executives, and a responsibility that we do take seriously. So I'm very proud that Bloom is pushing that cause forward, and will continue to do so as we evolve our business growth globally.
Sonja Wilkerson, thank you. Our next question builds on something that the Congress member mentioned earlier, and Manal Shafi, my colleague who introduced her, also mentioned, that I just find stunning. Congressmember Bass, again, you were the first Black woman to lead any state legislature in the United States. And to think that that only happened in 2008 is amazing. Thank you for shattering one more glass ceiling for all of us. Now, you were discussed as a potential vice presidential running mate for President Joe Biden. The US, as you mentioned, is now having the beginning of a discussion on President Biden's nominee for the United States Supreme Court, and that's Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, as mentioned just this morning. In your experience, what are some of the greatest benefits of having Black women in high leadership positions? And Sonja, I'd love to start with you, and then we'll hear from Congressmember Bass.
Yes, and I'll start by saying it's such an honor to be having this discussion with Congresswoman Bass because trailblazing, wow, and we're all want to follow in that path for sure. I will say that it is the roles we play as Black women, Black women. We are role models to future generations to come, whether we want to be or not. Individuals look to us for guidance. They look to us as sometimes a North Star, and we set an example of actually what can happen and how careers and lives can actually progress, even in a time where it seems difficult for progress to happen. Progress is being made. And as Black women, we also have an obligation to raise awareness that there are issues out there that need to be addressed that aren't always talked about. And when we are not at the table, we approach it from a different perspective, but from a different place. We all are. That bringing that diversity of thinking and having the courage to put those issues on the table actually moves a cause forward. And, this is where the impact that we do have, whether we know it or not, and the opportunity that we have to just set an example and pull others along.
Sonja, thank you. Congressmember Bass?
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I think that when you have diversity in every way, you're bringing different life experiences to the table. Now, if we were all the same, that wouldn't matter. But our country represents everybody, and I'm sure that Bloom Energy represents everybody as well, considering everything that you're talking about, your culture and the CEOs and all of that. But I think we all bring experiences to the table. And I think that Black women have always played leadership roles in our own community and in our own movements, whether it was known or not. I mean, if you go back to the civil rights movement, you think of Rosa Parks, one person, and then you think of all the men. But really, if you know about the civil rights movement, there were women every step of the way. And I think that in African-American history, and Sonja might have the same perspective or a different perspective, the stereotype gender roles were not afforded to us. So Black women have always been a leader, but played leading roles. Black women have always worked. So what has become, kind of US history, those roles weren't there for us. And I think because of that, that has put us in a leadership positions that are not new. I think newly recognized might be a better way. What do you think, Sonja? Newly recognized, but not new.
I cannot agree more. I don't know of a woman in my family that has not worked.
Right.
From my great grandmother to me today. And you're absolutely right. We've always played strong roles in the family, strong roles in the community, because we've had no choice.
Right.
So being that leader, and now being a leader in corporate America, just feels like a natural transition. Mm-hmm. Because it's always been there. And frankly, it's an honor to be recognized now in leadership roles. It's an honor to have an opportunity to be inclusive of everyone, because we are a melting pot of many different cultures, but leading the way in that now visibly and publicly, certainly more public for you, Congresswoman Bass, and myself, that's for sure. But having that opportunity, it is truly an honor and frankly humbling.
I am so glad that Congressmember Bass mentioned Rosa Parks and what an amazing role she played in advancing our country. I would mention one other champion in the early days of the civil rights movement, along with Rosa Parks, though, and that was a little 6-year-old girl in Louisiana named Ruby Bridges. Mm-hmm. And it still makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck and gives me goosebumps when I think how courageous she was as a child and walking into that school and being taught all by herself for an entire year because classmates wouldn't even sit in the same room with her.
And Carl, now that we understand more about trauma, just think about that. Right. I mean, basically, she had to put up with abuse, verbal abuse, and had to be physically protected so she wasn't physically attacked. Now, I had the honor of meeting her because Ruby Bridges is still very much with us. And John Lewis did these pilgrimage to the Edwin Pettus Bridge when they walked over the bridge fighting for the right to vote. And she was very much there. And just think about that today, the abuse of a child in that manner and how sad that was.
And Sonja, if I could put you on the spot, Didn't you walk over the Edmund Pettus Bridge last summer?
I did. I walked over to Edmund Pettus Bridge last summer. It was me and my youngest daughter, who is now has a fellowship with the Equal Justice organization, Equal Justice Initiative in Alabama. And we felt the power of what had happened on that bridge. And it was moving for all of us to know how the protesters were treated and the trauma that they went through even as adults, and the fear and the courage it took to move a community and a group of people forward. It was phenomenal to feel that. I just couldn't even imagine being there. So, and being a child facing that kind of trauma. So it's truly, it was really moving for us as a family. And we recognize and honored, the work that has been done to pave our way. So it's very powerful. Thank you for raising that call.
And both of you have mentioned the importance of civic engagement. And I will remind us today in our country, civic engagement should also be civil engagement. And that starts with that foundational benefit in a democracy of being able to vote. And if I may start with the Congress member for our next question, because millions of eligible voters here in the United States still do not vote, largely because they still don't believe that their vote, that their voice matters. In fact, in any given election, between 35% and 60% of eligible voters still don't cast a ballot. Sonja and Congressmember Bass, what would you say to people who do not see value in voting or being civically engaged? And let's start with the Congressmember.
Well, what I would say is that, in my district, if people don't vote, then I consider that a personal failure, because it's my job to inspire people to vote. It's my job to communicate with my constituents and show them the benefits. So one of the things that I do to do that is I do telephone town halls. As a matter of fact, the State of the Union is going to take place on Tuesday. And what I have done every year after the State of the Union, as soon as the president finishes, I do a telephone town hall, and I might call 100,000 people in my district. And those that pick up the phone, and there'll be thousands that pick up the phone, is one, because they know I always do this. And so then what we do is we talk about the State of the Union. They can talk to me, I talk to them. And so it's my job to stay in contact with people. And for those people that don't pick up, they get a message from me, and then they get invited to participate or to go to my website. So I think that it's incumbent upon leaders, it's incumbent upon elected officials to show people what they get when they vote.
That is amazing. I'm going to build on that before I go to Sonja. What is it like to sit on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, have the President of the United States walk in and deliver that State of the Union address? That must be so powerful. Can you give us a sense of that experience?
Sure. Depends on who the president is. So last year and this year, it's a joyous occasion. It's a joyous occasion. And then what you see if you watch the news, when we're all gathering, it's like, being on a college campus with your friends. We're all seeing each other and comparing notes. And for me, because I work on foreign policy, I always go over and talk to all the African ambassadors, and greet them. So it's a very joyous celebratory event. But then it's also like a sporting event in the sense that you'll see the Democrats stand up and cheer if it's a Democratic president. The Republicans will stay seated. So this particular time is going to be interesting. So notice this, because we're watching a country being stolen basically by another country, and who knows how many people will have died by next Tuesday, or whether or not Russia will have completely, swallowed up the Ukraine. There should be much more bipartisan response. So that will be something unique to look for. And then also, I'm hoping there'll be bipartisan response to the nomination of the Supreme Court Justice. So I think that this State of the Union might be a little more bipartisan than normal, but usually, it's like watching the Buccaneers and the Rams. And depending on what team you are, you get up and cheer.
Well, I think a lot of us were cheering for the Rams most
Right.
recently.
Exactly.
Sonja Wilkerson, you and I were just talking about this in your office, not
Yeah.
only for national elections, but how important local elections and participation is as well. Can you share your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always my youngest daughter is very politically active and social justice, and so I called her and I said, people don't vote. What do you tell them? And we had a really great discussion. She says, Mom, look, the bottom line is our democracy depends on it.
Yeah.
Our democracy depends on us participating. Our democracy depends on us having a voice. And if we choose not to have a voice, then we have zero control over what happens, even at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. Your vote does count.
Yes.
It's not just a cliche. We're not just saying that to get a number on the board. We're saying that because the number on the board actually matters. And, and look, I grew up in a lower income community where people were like, I'm not going to vote. And it doesn't change anything. And when I have an opportunity to speak to, my ex neighbors and friends, and they're still my friends, but I don't get to see them very often. We have this discussion. The conversation is very passionate from my perspective is get out there and vote. Because it's difficult to have an opinion. You influence policy when you vote. The people you put in that office work for you. And if there's a policy decision that needs to be had that represents you, you need to pick the person that's going to support your policy. I don't care what side it is, but just participate. And otherwise, whatever happens is not a good answer for anybody.
Sonja Wilkerson, thank you for that response. I've always viewed it that we have a choice. In a democracy, we can be engaged or we can be enraged. And it may feel better at the moment to get enraged, but you don't make a difference that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so at Bloom Energy, as Sonja and I just discussed by happenstance this morning, we'll continue to remind our Bloom Energy colleagues when elections are coming up, never for a moment suggesting how people should vote or positions on issues, but just in a democracy to remember that we have that right, that responsibility, and that opportunity to vote. So we'll encourage you as elections occur. Our next question. As you know, California is an incredibly large and dynamic state. In fact, the 5th largest economy in the world, which means that pressing issues in one part of our state may be very different from key issues in a different part of our state. Sonja, what do you believe is the most pressing issue here in Silicon Valley, where we have about 1,000 Bloom Energy colleagues? And how can we work on finding a solution at the local and/or federal level? And then Congressmember Bass, same question to you, except pertaining to your district, which includes several neighborhoods in the city of Los Angeles. Most pressing issue, Sonja Wilkerson?
Yeah, it's a simple answer for me. It's housing. Our ability to provide affordable housing to the person making an average income is critical. And it is unfortunate that, we're in a place now where in many cases it's just not possible. So, if I could provide a solution, I really would. I wish I had a magic wand to fix this one. This is where I put the solutions and the ideas to Congresswoman Bass, who, influences policy at the state and even a national level. From an employer perspective, we have to pay fair wages to ensure that people can live. But housing really is a critical issue that's problematic.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Sonja, because I just sleep right here in my office. That's okay, right?
That's fine.
Oh, perfect. Good.
That's fine. No problem. You can even bring in the kids.
There you go. Congressmember Bass, the most pressing issue that you hear in your congressional district, as well as perhaps statewide or nationwide?
Well, in my congressional district and in my city, it is definitely profound income inequality. And the expression of that profound income inequality is, just picture this for a minute, 40,000 people living in tents on the streets of Los Angeles, 40,000. And 2 or 3 of them dying a day, 1,500 of them died in 2020. And we are the richest country in the history of the world. How is it that we have people living outside? I agree with Sonja 100%. It is housing, but why is housing a problem? Because of profound income inequality. And for those people that are housed, you might have multiple families in one roof. And then we have 40,000 people in tents today, but we have another 50 or 60 who are barely hanging in, who could be in tents tomorrow, especially as the COVID relief dries up.
Could we pivot to the magnitude of that problem to potential solutions? Congressmember Bass, for your city, for our country, what can we do to address the fact that 40,000 human beings are homeless on the streets of such a great city like Los Angeles today?
Without a doubt, we have to get people off the streets right away. However, we also have to address some of the reasons why they are unhoused. And health is the #1 reason, be it chronic diseases, be it substance abuse or mental illness. But you also have veterans. You have people that are foster youth who, when they turn 18, Carl, as you well know, we kind of put them out on the street. You have people who were formerly incarcerated, where we passed so many laws locking people up, but then we also continue to pass laws that punish people once they get out, that leaves them without a place to work, without a driver's license, without a place to live. So it's very bad policy decisions that were made years ago that we're now seeing the consequences of.
Thank you for underscoring that it is much more complex than one challenge or one solution, that it's a combination of factors that
Right.
impact those individual 40,000 lives as well. And
That's
that we
right.
have to treat individuals as the individuals that they are as we address it.
Exactly.
My goodness. We are going to ask one more question before we move to my favorite part, which is questions from colleagues here at Bloom Energy. So please feel free to start putting questions in the chat box. And Bruce Kennedy or others, will you be reading those, or will we be able to see some of those questions in the chat box?
We can read them, or you can open the Q&A box and read them, either way.
Great. So just go to the Q&A chat box. I'll be able to see your questions and read those as they come in. We'll get to as many of those as we can. As you start putting those questions in the Q&A box, I would mention 2 dates coming up here at Bloom Energy that I'd like to call out. The first is March 1, next week, when we will be opening up the registration portal for our 2nd annual Bloom Energy Stars and Strides community run and walk tied to our Independence Day weekend. This year, it will be Saturday, July 2nd, where we will be bringing together thousands of people throughout Silicon Valley and the Bay Area to support and celebrate our frontline hospital and healthcare workers who have been so integral to helping all of us come through this pandemic into a better place for our entire country and world. So please consider registering on March 1st when we open up the Bloom Energy Stars and Strides registration portal. With your help in the inaugural run and walk last year, and I think this was primarily the Wilkerson family turning out en masse, we were able to contribute $274,500 to our 3 county hospitals, 14 healthcare clinics that helped purchase the mobile vaccination unit that has provided vaccines for 170,000 people in our community, and helped to roll out the kids vaccination program in Santa Clara County that has served more than 100,000 children between the ages of 5 and 12 in just the last 4 months. So your participation truly makes a difference. Bloom Energy Stars and Strides opens March 1. And then if you sign up for the run or the walk, you have an excuse to join us on Friday afternoon, March 11th, for an ice cream social here at Bloom Energy in Silicon Valley, where we will be joined by United States Congressmember Ro Khanna, Congressmember Bass's colleague from here in the Silicon Valley area. Congressman Khanna represents the geography where our 2 new Fremont facilities are being located. So join us on March 11th to have guilt-free ice cream because you signed up on March 1st for our run and walk through Stars and Strides. With that, as we continue to have questions placed in the Q&A box, my last question for these 2 amazing leaders. Congressmember Bass, you were elected, as we mentioned earlier, to serve as Speaker of the California State Assembly in 2008 during the greatest economic crisis since the Great Depression. Sonja Wilkerson, you have been a tremendous leader and role model throughout the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. For both of you, what do you believe are the most important qualities of an effective leader during times of crisis or great uncertainty? Congressmember Bass, we're going to start with you.
I think one of the most important qualities is selflessness and keeping your eyes on the prize and moving everybody forward. Where leaders make mistakes is when they have a mirror in front of their face. If it's about you, and especially when it is in a crisis, you are going to make serious mistakes. Humility, honesty, openness, selflessness.
What a great answer. Sonja, you're in the unenviable position of following that great response.
I know, that was an amazing answer, and it's hard to top that for sure. But I would say is, navigating through crisis, I find for me, being calm, because when you are calm, you can take a very clear and pragmatic approach to addressing the issue at hand. I found that being transparent, that we just don't know it all, and we are learning as we go, and we will shift as we need to, helped people come along with us and trust the journey that we're embarking on. So, calm.
Great answers. But my favorite part of our empowered community employee town halls here at Bloom Energy is hearing from our colleague employees. We have great questions. I hope we'll be able to get to at least several of these before we run out of time. So let me start. And I want to apologize in advance if I pronounce any of our colleagues' names incorrectly. My fault. So I apologize in advance. So from one of our Bloom Energy colleagues, Zarina Shahid, how have you tactfully managed any conscious and/or unconscious bias that you face as you've progressed through your careers? And what advice would you share with someone who might feel timid in speaking up for him or herself? Sonja Wilkerson, why don't we start with you? What advice would you give, and how have you managed conscious or unconscious bias?
Yeah, and by the way, I would say it depends, right? Everybody has unconscious biases, and when an unconscious bias, which happens often actually, comes into play, I leverage it and use it as an opportunity to educate. Because education is very powerful. Again, being calm and being articulate and being clear about clearing up whatever the unconscious bias, even conscious bias may be, especially when it's obvious. So I don't leave it unaddressed, because when you leave it unaddressed, then the belief system continues to reinforce itself, whatever that is. So I would encourage the individual to please muster up the courage to respectfully at least ask the question, what do you mean? Are you sure? Can I help you clear this up?
I've also admired the timing of you raising issues one-on-one, never in a group, never putting people on the spot. But when something happens, you immediately reach out so that it is still fresh and in the moment to be able to address it, rather than letting it fester or build or be so far away that people may no longer have it fresh in their minds. So just one more thing I've admired about your leadership, Sonja.
Thank you, Carl.
Congressmember Bass?
Well, I agree with everything that both of you said. And I'll go back to something that Sonja said a few minutes ago about calmness and transparency. And so I think that sometimes in the timing, sometimes, it hurts. And so maybe that's not the best time to raise it.
Right.
Maybe you raise it the next day when you can kind of bring the emotion down. And needless to say, in the environment I work in, where people, it's not necessarily unconscious bias. It can be quite conscious bias. And so I think that without trying to, compartmentalize the emotion and then explaining to the person why what they said was hurtful and trying to take blame and guilt away. Because if you actually want somebody to hear you, if you are leading with blame and guilt and your own emotion, they can't hear you because they're going to shut down. And I think being aware of that. I'm also a big believer in dosing, is what I call it, which means, you might have 10 incidences, but you just pick one. Try to gauge what the person can handle. Try to read that person.
Great responses. Our next one is from Dakota. And Dakota, thanks for joining us today. What can Bloom and other companies do to make sure its employees can vote?
Carl, you want me to take that one?
Sonja, please.
Okay. So, Bloom, we certainly, I'll just speak from corporate, encouraging people to vote is the right thing to do. We would never make any attempt to force anybody to vote. That is not our role. Giving people the time to vote for those individuals who are in states where, in California, fortunately, we have a long, many different ways to vote, which makes it more convenient for our employee population, but there are states where that's not the case. Encouraging employers to give individuals the time they need to go and vote is really, really important. So just reinforcing and encouraging people to get out there and vote. If they need the time, go do it.
Thank you, Sonja. Congressmember Bass?
And Carl, I know that Bloom is all over the world. Is Bloom all over the country too?
From an employee population perspective, we're
Uh-huh.
primarily here in California,
Okay.
where Dr. Schroeder created the company 20 years ago with, again, about 1,000 employees. That will be growing considerably over the next 10 months, and about 500 employees in Delaware. And we have customers in about 14 states in the United States, with plans for another 7 or 8 this year.
So what I would say, because in California, as Sonja described, everybody now gets a ballot in the mail.
Mhm.
So election day right now is June 7th, but that's actually when the election ends. The election begins the month before. So I think that one thing that Bloom could do in a very objective way is to, just like we're doing today, if you could put on employee forums that go through the ballot so people know what is on the ballot. And what's very confusing about our state are the gazillion ballot propositions. And if you watch TV, you know, it's very confusing because usually what they say on TV, whatever the ballot proposition is, it isn't. And so if you could have just kind of objective forums, and then if you could let your 1,000 people know that they can actually vote in May and all they have to do is turn in the ballot. They don't even have to go anywhere. I think that's important. And then in your other state, Delaware, I don't think people are mailed the ballot, but they don't have the challenges, because depending on where you are, and this is one of the tragic things about our democracy today, is that in some states, they're actually doing everything they can to either make the right to vote so difficult that you give up, or they're passing laws to literally to allow the overturning of elections. Now, we're very privileged in California. We don't have to deal with that. I think in California, it's only a matter of motivation and education. There are no barriers to vote.
And a direct chat was just sent to me, Congressmember Bass, if I may follow up. And again, this is about policy, not politics, but someone has noted that your name is going to be on the ballot in a different way on June 7th as well. Can you share briefly?
Sure.
This next step in your career.
Sure. After 6 terms, which is 12 years in the House of Representatives, I decided not to run again, but to actually come home and try to address the crisis that we have here of the 40,000 people. So I am running to be the next mayor of the city, which would be history making because there's never been a woman mayor. And so, yes, my name will be on the ballot June 7th in a different capacity.
Wow. And Los Angeles, largest city in California, second largest in the United States of America, about 4 million residents.
Larger than many states. Yeah.
Amazing. We wish you the best in that election effort. And thank you again for joining us, as busy as you are, as a member of Congress, and now as a candidate for the mayor of the second largest city in the United States of America. I love this next question. As Black History Month transitions into Women's History Month, can you tell us more about why it is essential to have a diverse workforce in tackling issues like the energy transition? Who would like to take that first?
I can give that one a shot, Carl.
Sonja, please.
Look, and by the way, I love the fact that, specific groups are called out for celebration for many different reasons. And the fact of the matter is we're in an energy space and everybody breathes the same air. We have one earth that we are living in, and we have generations that will follow us that need our technology. It is absolutely, and this is not segueing to whether it's Black History Month or International Women's Day. This is about creating, clean energy, which is our mission for everyone. We all need it. For Bloom, many of our purchasers are, purchasers of our technology are women. Many of our purchasers of our technology are people of color. So ensuring that our employee population represents our customer base is important as well. And there's also environmental justice that we play a role in as well. So it's larger than just 2 historical months that's happening. It's a continuous effort to bring a solution to the world that we need.
Sonja Wilkerson, thank you. Congressmember Bass?
And I would just add in to build on something that Sonja referenced, which is environmental justice. I think a diverse workforce is absolutely essential because how the energy transition takes place impacts communities differently. And probably one of the most dramatic examples of that was cap and trade. And cap and trade, yes, you can buy your way, but you still pollute. And where is the pollution taking place? It's taking place in communities of color. So some policies, if they are implemented without a diverse workforce, people might not realize the consequences of the policies. And when you have everybody at the table, then you can make the best policies because you will take into consideration how those policies impact different populations.
I want to get to our next question because I find it so compelling. I want to thank Lewis Hopkins for putting it in the Q&A box. To Congressmember Bass and to Sonja Wilkerson, if you can share, what is your goal of what keeps you pressing? What keeps you going?
Well, for me, what keeps me going, very easy, when I step out of my house and I see the tents in the richest country in the history of the world, that keeps me going. Absolutely. And knowing that many of the problems that we face are just not rocket science. I mean, what you're dealing with is way more challenging than solving the problems of income inequality. Solving the problems like that is a question of priority and political will. It's not knowledge. We know what to do.
Thank you, Congressmember Bass. Sonja Wilkerson, what keeps you going?
Oh, wow. There's so much. But I am very, very passionate about the opportunity to participate in a company that I know will change the world from an environmental perspective. And I know that Bloom will tackle environmental justice through our technology. And, every day I have an opportunity and the honor of impacting every employee and their families in some way, shape, or form through our culture, through policy decisions, through just basic difficult decisions that are situations that employees are going through. So it's an honor to be in this place and to have the position that has impact. So I'm driven by impact.
Yes.
I'm
That makes
captivated.
2 of us.
Yeah.
I'm captivated by the theme that you both have struck in those last comments, but throughout our conversation, in the impact that we see on underserved communities, who in our state are often also communities of color. In LA, the Los Angeles Times is the paper of record, and you have a journalist at the Times, Congressmember Bass, named Sammy Roth, who on Thursday mornings writes an incredible column called The Boiling Point that often focuses on the impact of energy decisions, whether that's global level greenhouse gases or localized air pollution, which is the leading cause of death for 1 of every 5 people on the planet is breathing dirty air. And the impact it has in the LA basin and in California on underserved communities and communities of color. And the way that you two are trying to tackle these incredibly difficult issues, both in the private sector, Sonja Wilkerson, and through the public sector, Congressmember Bass. We're blessed by you both. My favorite part about our empowered community employee town halls is engaging our employees, our colleagues, and ending on the note of nuggets that our employees heard. I'm going to ask my colleagues, Marissa Blackshire and Angie Salikup, to turn on their cameras, to take themselves off of mute. And in about 45 seconds each, what nuggets did you hear today that you'll take away from our conversation? Marissa, your last name comes before Salikup, so you go first.
Thanks, Carl. As a woman and as a Black woman, I'm just really, really grateful to have been asked to participate in this conversation and to hear from both of you, because I think everything that you had to say is really, really important. A couple of things that I heard and that really resonated for me were, number one, diversity has value apart from what's visible, right? Diversity of thought is magical, both from a corporate and civil engagement perspective. And it as much as differing experiences and thoughts can come together and often spearhead the breakthroughs that we have in so many different contexts, diversity is really, really critical to moving this world forward. The second thing that I heard and that really, really resonated for me was that Black women have always been leaders in their homes and in their communities. And it's only recently that they've been recognized in more traditional settings. And I think both of you are shining examples of what can happen if that continues and how that can impact finding solutions with respect to all of the issues we talked about today, like the energy transition and environmental justice and income inequality and the housing issues. So thank you both again. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my nuggets, Carl.
Marissa, thank you. And thanks for your leadership here at Bloom. Angie.
Yes, I echo Marissa's comments. First, to Congresswoman Bass and to Sonja, thank you for your time today. I feel such a sense of pride seeing two strong, accomplished women leaders before us today. I know firsthand how difficult it can be for women to receive equal opportunity to be successful in their professional career. So I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge you both and thank you for your insights today and acknowledge your accomplishments. The Congresswoman Bass, your commitment and conviction to women's rights, voting rights, racial equality is inspirational. I'm a mother of 3 young kids, and it gives me hope for their future that we have representatives out there fighting for their opportunity to live in a country that treats all people equal, regardless of their race, their gender, or their sexual preference. And so that takes it does take us to vote you into office, but it takes a tremendous amount of courage and commitment and personal sacrifice to fight the fight. And so I wanted to thank you for your commitment, for your insights today, and for your service.
Thank you.
Angie Salikup, Marissa Blackshire, thank you for sharing your takeaways from today's Bloom Energy Empowered Communities Employee Town Hall. I want to thank again Manal Shafi on our Community and Government Affairs team for doing all the work and coordinating with the Congress member's office to make this possible, and of course our amazing communications team. Sonja Wilkerson, Congressmember Karen Bass, we're really fortunate and blessed to have your leadership in both the private and public sectors. Congressmember Bass, thanks for your leadership and stewardship for our nation, for our state, and for the community that you love so much in Los Angeles.
Oh, thank you both. And it was great to meet you, Sonja.
Nice to meet you as well. And best of luck in your race. And maybe I'll move to LA temporarily just to vote for you.
Oh, you're welcome anytime. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bloom Energy colleagues, thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.